Hi, I'm Russell Hammond. This is my first video and I wanted to make it meaningful, I wanted to make it important. I wanted to talk about the big issue of 2020. That's not Brexit, that's sustainability. What does that mean? What do we mean when we talk about sustainability? What do we mean when we talk about ethical sourcing, making sure that we save the planet? It's such a big topic and such a challenging issue for today. I think probably in 10 years, maybe sooner, there are going to be two types of businesses. Those two types of businesses are either going to be, number one, transparent about what they do on sustainability and how they make the planet a better place, and how they're reducing waste, and how they are being thoughtful about the way that they use the world's resources. Or those businesses that are in decline and ultimately go out of business. Why else should you do it? Well, your consumers care. Your consumers are going to tell you that you need to do it, because if you don't listen to them, then they're going to go away. They're going to find another brand that's going to become more sustainable and chime more clearly with the way that they feel about the way that we're treating the planet. You need to protect your future growth. You know, the consumers who don't care about the environment, who don't believe in global warming and don't believe in climate change, they're going to get older and eventually they're going to die. The consumers under 30, I think it's obvious that they, pretty much all of them believe that climate change is real and that we need to do something about it. But check out, do some research, see if I'm right. I believe I am, but you can do research for yourself and look at the news, look at articles. Sustainability is becoming more and more important in our industry. We need to change, otherwise our consumers will force us to change, so you need to be ahead of the curve. Also, what will your children think? You know, I have a 7-year-old and a 5-year-old, and I often think I want to make sure that my legacy to them is true, and that I can, in 20, 30 years' time, stand up and say, yes, I tried to make a difference, I tried to make a change, I did my bit. 50, 70 years ago, the question was, Daddy, what did you do in the war? Maybe in 2040, 2050, Mummy, Daddy, what were you doing for climate to support climate change? You know, what were you doing to support the fight against climate change? So what should you do if you feel that the same as me, and that things need to change, the industry needs to change if it's going to survive? What needs to be done? The way I would start is I would take all the profit and loss items, so everything you spend, all the money you spend, and ask yourself for everything you spend whether this item can be sourced more responsibly or sustainably. Specifically, I would also look at your plastics. You know, looking at the plastic poly bags you use, plastic bags, plastic carrier bags, even plastic within things like sequins. Look at the amount of plastics you use and say to yourself, can you change to recycled plastic, or can you eliminate the use of plastic completely on that P&L line? Think about, in general, how far you want to go creatively. It's not a pass or fail. The fact that you're probably selling product, if you're watching this video, you either want to sell product or you are selling product. So by definition, you're unsustainable because you're adding to the problem. So, you know, how far are you going to go? You, of course, the assumption would be is that you wouldn't want to compromise your creative vision too much, but maybe there is an element of that you can compromise. Maybe there is something that you can do that you're going to feel like, yeah, okay, that is something I will no longer put in my collection or use as part of my collection. Find out what your consumers think. You probably will have a few trusted consumers, a few of your tribe, if you like. Think about talking to them and finding out what their view is on sustainability and on ethical production. I'm sure they have a view, and you should listen to them because they probably represent the majority of your consumers. Ultimately, you need to do you sustainably. So that doesn't mean that you should reinvent yourself, doesn't mean you should reinvent the wheel, doesn't mean that you should completely change your culture, but you should stick to who you are, but think about how you source your product and how you use the world's resources more responsibly. What's on brand for you when it comes to sustainability? Look at how you're sourcing and start building in sustainability questions to your suppliers, your material suppliers particularly. They're the ones that are using the world's resources. Yes, of course, finished goods production uses resource, but the vast majority of the world's resources is being taken up by materials. Questions like, how do they deal with their waste? How do they source their energy? Do they recycle the water that they use? What steps are they becoming to become more sustainable? There are lots of suppliers who claim that they are sustainable. Let's look at it. Let's look at it in detail. Let's make sure we're not being greenwashed to perhaps pay a little bit more for your fabric or your trim or your whatever you're buying unnecessarily. Maybe you can ask them if they have a version of the fabric that you chose that's organic or made from recycled fibres or is more sustainable. Don't just think about price as a reason to choose fabric or to choose trim. It's also about the credentials of the manufacturer or even the credentials of that particular article. Do they have dead stock fabric? Dead stock fabric is fabric that they've tried to sell but couldn't, or that has been returned to them, or that for whatever reason is unwanted, not because it's no good, just because it didn't fit perhaps with the designer's collection or it wasn't particularly right for that brand. That could well be the product that you could use, and then therefore you're saving the world's resources, because ultimately the choice would be between fabric that's already been woven or fabric that is going to be woven for you. Much better to use fabric that's been woven for someone else, so that you're not recreating more waste. Do you need to air freight the products? Do you need to do you need to increase your carbon footprint? Can you maybe transport the item by road or by sea? If you do have to use air freight, does your courier offset their carbon footprint? There are a couple of courier companies that certainly looking at doing that. So you should definitely look at that and see if that's possible for you. Why bother? What's the point? It's a trend, it's a fad, it'll go away, it'll move on, just like all the trends. I don't think it will. I'm old enough to have been around at the start of internet shops. And you have Amazon launching, I think, 1995. I was asked, do you think internet shops are going to be around forever? The assumption was no, they're just a fad. No one would ever buy luxury online. No one would ever buy even clothing online. And of course, look where we are now in 2020. So why am I talking about internet shops? Well, it's because for one person it's a trend that will go away, but for another person it's a change of life and a change of a movement on in history. I think there's a lot of analogies between e-commerce and sustainability. I don't think it's going to go away. I think it's going to be here to stay, and I think either you're going to be on the bus and working with it and moving towards it, or you're not going to be in business anymore. I think all successful brands will be transparent about their sustainable credentials by 2030, and I think those credentials will be able to be provable, whether it be through blockchain or through officially recognised bodies that confirm that what they say they're doing is in fact what they're doing. Extinction Rebellion wanted to cancel London Fashion Week last season. I'm not sure what they're going to do this season. I can sort of understand why. I mean, I think we're one of the biggest polluters in the world. We create product to waste. We create the desire to waste. So therefore we have the biggest responsibility. And I think that's as it should be. I don't think it's an option to cancel London Fashion Week. I don't think it's an option stop the fashion industry, but I think it is something that we need to all think about, and we need to all make sure that we're not adding to the problem, and try and get on as part of the team to help save the planet. I think we can change. I think the industry is slow, but I think it can move forward. I read Nordstrom had started a recycle scheme for clothing. There are sustainable fashion brands popping up left and right. There are sustainable fabric fairs happening. So there definitely is a movement, and I think we should all be part of that movement, and we should all be part of that change. Vivienne Westwood, quite some years ago, told us to buy less, choose well, and make it last. And I think that's a good mantra for the fashion industry. It's not that we don't want anybody to buy anything, because otherwise we wouldn't exist. But when they do want to buy, they want to buy well, and they want to make it last. They don't want to. You shouldn't buy something to throw away. You should buy something to wear that is an investment, and that should appeal to all of my clients and all of the people hopefully watching the video. This can be an opportunity to take market share away from the bigger brands that can't move more quickly, an opportunity to take away market share from the high street, where people want to buy more responsibly and to buy more investment pieces, and ultimately a responsibility to do your bit and to make sure that you can hold your head up high and say, yeah, I tried my best in 20 years' time. I'm Russell Hammond. I'm a management consultant, so we help fashion businesses with their decision making. We help them make money, we help them reduce their costs, we help them work more efficiently, and ultimately we help them to grow. If you like what I said on my video, then please hit the like button. Please feel free to comment. I'd love to start a debate about what you think about sustainability. Where do we think we've gone too far? Do you think it's a trend? Do you think it's here to stay? Do you think the industry is doing enough? There'll be more videos soon. It's my New Year's resolution to make more videos, so watch this space, follow me. Thank you.